All right, let's just jump right in. So in 2025, South Korea is going to celebrate Gwangbokjeol, which is its 80th anniversary of Liberation Day. That's a huge deal. But what if that entire celebration is based on a profound misunderstanding? Today we're going to unpack a really provocative argument that calls the whole idea of Korean liberation into question.
For 80 years, the story's been pretty straightforward, right? It's a celebration of freedom from Japanese colonial rule, a hard-fought victory that built the nation you see today. It's this powerful story of overcoming, of rebirth. It's really a cornerstone of modern Korean identity.
But what if it's all built on a shaky foundation? What if Korea confused the starting gun for the finish line? Is it possible that the popular idea of liberation is actually an illusion, one that's been holding the nation back this whole time?
And this quote, this is really the heart of the entire argument. This isn't just a slightly different take on history. No, it's a complete reframing of the last 80 years. The idea here is that true liberation was never actually achieved, and celebrating it every year is just a distraction from the real work that still needs to get done.
Okay, so let's break down this first major point. The argument is that, yeah, Korea was freed from Japanese rule. That's a fact. But it never achieved true sovereignty or real recognition on the world stage. You can think of it as a change in circumstances, but not a fundamental change in its actual status. And this really gets to the core of the problem. According to this source, from an international point of view, Korea's image is kind of frozen in the past. To Japan, it's still seen as just a former vassal state. To China, a small tributary. To the West, it's basically seen as a country that received a ton of foreign aid. And the point is pretty powerful. If you haven't earned genuine global respect, are you really truly liberated? And here is the absolute crux of the argument. Korea didn't liberate itself. The United States defeated Japan. The surrender was made to the US, not to Korea. So from this perspective, celebrating the day like it was a self-achieved victory, well, that's a foundational mistake right from the very beginning. Okay, let's move on to the second part and see how this all connects. If liberation wasn't what it seemed, then what are the consequences? Well, the argument is that this misunderstanding has led directly to some deep internal stagnation and chaos.
So what's the root cause of all this chaos? The source points to one big thing: borrowed systems. The idea is that Korea pretty much imported its legal, political, and social frameworks from other countries, mainly from the West, without ever really developing its own. And what you get are these systems that are like ill-fitting copies, creating constant friction and problems.
Now, to understand the proposed solution, you have to get this key concept, Jaju Dongnip, or self-reliant independence. This is about so much more than just political freedom. It's about the really deep, hard work of building a society, its laws, its politics, its culture, from the ground up, based on its own unique character.
And the consequences of not doing this are, according to the source, severe. Because that foundational work was never done, the argument goes that nothing is truly Korea's own. The laws, the politics, even the national identity itself, it's all borrowed. And this creates a society that's fundamentally unstable because it lacks a solid core.
The speaker uses a really powerful metaphor to drive this point home. Koreans have become like frogs in a well. You know, they're brilliant, they're driven, but they're trapped in these internal fights, climbing all over each other and completely unable to see the vast world outside or their true place in it. This narrow focus just keeps them from achieving a much greater purpose.
I know, this all sounds incredibly bleak, but the source doesn't just diagnose the problem. It actually proposes a radical new vision for what liberation could and should mean. It's not about the past at all. It's all about the future.
So here's the crucial shift in perspective. The common view is backward-looking, freedom from something. But the source's view is forward-looking, liberation for a purpose. This one change transforms Liberation Day from just a historical anniversary into an active, ongoing mission.
And what is that mission exactly? To become indispensable to all of humanity. True sovereignty, in this view, isn't something you take or are just given. It's something you earn. And you earn it when your nation contributes something so valuable to the world that the world literally can't imagine getting by without you. So how is this supposed to happen? The argument lays out a three-step path. First, awaken from the 80-year-old illusion. Second,
do the incredibly hard research to build uniquely Korean systems, that self-reliant independence we talked about. And finally, step 3, you orient the entire nation towards serving and contributing to all of humanity. This, we're told, is the path to achieving Kwangmyang, or true light. Okay, let's move into our final section, which is really a direct and very urgent call to action. According to this source, the time for just thinking about this is long gone.
And here's a pretty bold claim. Korea's 70-year era of growth is over. Done. That phase where the world helped lift the nation up, well, the claim is that it ended around 2012. The time for receiving help is finished. The next phase must be about contribution.
So who's responsible for leading this new charge? The source is absolutely unflinching here. It places the blame squarely on the nation's educated class, specifically the PhDs from the baby boomer and Gen X generations. The accusation is harsh. They were given the resources to do the deep research needed to build a self-reliant nation, but instead they played and completely failed to do their duty.
The warning that follows is stark. If this intellectual class fails to change course and fulfill its duty, the speaker predicts a kind of heavenly punishment. We're talking about a future of hardship, illness, and struggle for the entire nation. It's a call to action framed in the most serious terms possible.
And so we end with the final provocative question that this source leaves us with. It argues the old path is closed. The 80-year celebration is a misunderstanding. The nation is at a massive crossroads. And according to this one viewpoint, the entire future depends on whether it can redefine liberation itself and find a new purpose, not just for itself, but for the whole world.